This is Food for Thought, in my humble opinion, by Sonia De Lorraine, with opinion number 2. Today, this is a longer one, sharing both fact and opinion as follows. Andrew Jackson was an American soldier and statesman who served as the 7th President of the United States and is considered the founder of the Democratic Party. After winning election to the Senate, Jackson ran for president in 1824. Although he got a plurality in both electoral and popular vote against 3 major candidates, Jackson failed to get a majority and lost in the House of Representatives to John Quincy Adams. Jackson claimed that he lost by a corrupt bargain. Jackson's supporters then founded what became the Democratic Party. He ran again for president in 1828 against Adams and won. As president, Jackson faced a threat of secession by South Carolina over the Tariff of Abominations. And that Tariff of Abominations was a protective tariff passed by the Congress of the United States on 19 May 1828, designed to protect industry, also known as manufacturing, production, and construction, in the northern United States. Enacted during the presidency of John Quincy Adams, it was labeled the Tariff of Abominations by its southern detractors because of the effects it had on the antebellum southern economy, also known as plantation era. So, not taken out of context, I remind in this case, a tariff is a tax on imports or exports, an international trade tariff. Does this sound familiar? That our American president-elect had aimed part of his campaign on bringing back work to the United States by taxing those who wish to take American product and manufacture elsewhere, thus leaving our country high and dry, especially by depleting our job market in doing so. And our president-elect wishing to protect the American people, much in the same manner as John Quincy Adams, protecting the North and its Commonwealth from the dissident Southern plantation owners. So basically, we are looking at the mentalities of two. That of the Northern mentality and that of the Southern mentality, or the mentality of the North versus the mentality of the South. One party who represents our Commonwealth as a country with its own manufacturing through the use of skilled American workers, all race, color, or creed, so long as American citizens, keeping the jobs, profit, and wealth in our own country, thus protecting against outsiders gleaning our Commonwealth while our country suffers, thus the continuation of the North mentality by protecting that. While the other party being for bankrolling outsiders and expatriates, all those who support their own agenda, while still making money on slave labor in other countries, as well as our own, thus profit by imports and exports, which allocate profit outside of our American country, that being the South mentality. And as we can see, both of which continue on today. Take a look at how this South mentality can mislead the American public by their fooling many of the American people in believing they actually have a voice on many issues, and opening platforms for such issues, which many platforms or propaganda were originally formed and instigated by these same dictators, whom I refer to as today's plantation owners, based on their using the Southern mentality. Again, by way of organizing platforms for those misguided patriots, keeping them distracted and busy in order to utilize their patriotism, however, using them in such a way that a snake would eat its own tail. I use the entitled term plantation owners for this same Southern mentality today because nothing has really changed, nor the means they use for their aides who help to organize or incite these so-called protests in order to protect their propaganda of counter-information, while allowing those of less position to do the actual protesting and rioting, who were enslaved by the ideology of disinformation, often unaware of the true and actual agenda, reminding me of the paradox in having house slaves as opposed to field slaves, for they'd already used this tactic to keep their plantation or empire running smoothly. There having the house slaves chosen for their loyalty and given designated and limited authority over the field slaves, both of whom at this point counted solely on the plantation owners to both dictate and now support their way of life, for the alternative was surely death by many means. Reminding me this was set into motion again by such men as Jackson when opposing such men as Adams, even back in their day, which we can plainly see until such time as someone attempts to rewrite our American history. But don't get me started on that subject, not just yet, though perhaps another time. On this particular facet of my opinion, I will stop right here before getting too far off base, as I can see a whole new tangent spinning at this point. The major goal of the tariff was to protect industries in the northern United States, which were being driven out of business by low-priced imported goods by taxing them. Sound familiar? In contrast to several of his immediate successors, Andrew Jackson denied the right of a state to secede or separate oneself from the Union, or to nullify or repeal federal law. In closing, I remind federal law is a body of law, of regulation, created by the federal government, the syndicate authority of a country. A federal government is formed when a group of political units, such as states or provinces, join together in a federation as a coalition, surrendering their individual sovereignty of self-government and these many powers to the central government, the national government, while retaining or reserving other limited powers. As a result, two or more levels of government exist within an established geographical area. The body of law of the common central government is the federal law. Now, I'll end my thought for today, this 19th day of November 2016, right here at this juncture, and continue another day with my opinions on such subject matter as to include the nullification crisis, amended tariff by Andrew Jackson, and his threat to use military force should South Carolina attempt to secede. Also, the emerging of the Whig Party, later known as the Republican Party, as well as the Indian Removal Act by Democrat Andrew Jackson. Not in that order. And other things as well. This is Sonia thanking you for listening for food. Pardon me. This is Sonia thanking you for listening to Food for Thought, in my humble opinion. And I wish you all a lovely day. God bless. Now I can let my kitty in. I can hear the kitty crying to come back in. Okay. Thank you so much again. God bless.